does it have? It has serial number, date, invoice, customer name, invoice number actually, customer name, sales rep, item wise, item type, price, quantity, and so on. When we do any kind of analysis of the data, first thing that we would typically do is a summarization.
Correct.
Summarization of how much of sales has been done by the customer, how much of sales has been purchased by the customer, how much of item wise sales has been achieved, what are the different item type wise sales. So different aspects of the data you'd be analyzed, right? In your case, you might want to know how many resources are deployed per customer, how many people in different technologies are being deployed, which is a increasing trend, where you need more people, where do you need more resources. So that kind of headcount or that kind of analysis can be done using pivot table.
Right. Headcount reports I'm getting, but
Yes,
on revenue
revenue.
for different
Yes,
units.
correct.
The summary is coming. Shikantak, you have to analyze. That's
Yes,
how it is coming.
exactly. So there is no end to what you can analyze. The heads can be different depending on the data set that you are working on or the industry in which you are working. First step when you do a pivot table is you can select the data first. So to select the data, I can do Control A. So my entire data set gets selected after I have clicked on the table. Leave the last total row alone because that doesn't have much data, only the total. There are some requirements that you must meet. One, there should not be any gaps in the column. They must be in a proper, all the columns must have a heading and all the columns must exist. So there should not be any gaps between the columns. Neither there should be any gaps between the rows. If there are gaps, often pivot table fails to recognize the subsequent columns or the subsequent rows. So you might miss out on some of the rows or columns if there are any gaps. ठीक है?
Okay.
Gaps बोलते, for example, between F and G there is one blank column.
Okay.
Then it will cause an issue. একটা header, কোনো header নেই. Column is there but there's no header. Then pivot table doesn't know what to do with it. ठीक है? Now, something like a AI feature has been introduced in pivot table also, where what you can do is you can go to insert and there is one option called as recommended pivot tables.
Sure.
Recommended pivot table or recommended pivot tables is a Excel's analysis of your data. Based on that, they are giving you a pre-formatted pivot table where they're telling you, see, this is actually sales rep. So see Kelly, Doug, Sandra, Kelly. So these are my sales representative. So they have given you the data sales representative wise total sales. So what have they done? They have summarized it. Okay.
Of total versus. Okay.
Look at the next one. This is item type wise total.
Yes.
This is within item type. There is another breakup here. You'll probably find item and then customers. So there are multiple levels here. This one, again, sales representative wise plus. That means there are additional levels below that. This is sum by price. So there are more than one column here. You see this?
Correct. So
This is
different
average.
basically representation of the data
Correct.
Excel আমাকে দিয়ে দিচ্ছে basically
Ah,
that these are your
exactly.
okay.
Either one way
Mhm.
you can.
Just আমি আমি হেডফোনটা নিয়ে আসছি স্যার এক মিনিট ইকো হচ্ছে অ্যাকচুয়ালি
Okay.
হ্যাঁ বলুন তো
Okay. Is it better now?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ শুনতে যাচ্ছি
Uh, So these are Excel's presentation of the data.
correct
You may like it. You can choose any one of them and then make changes. That option is also there. Or you can create a blank pivot table. You see here, there is a button.
correct correct
This is one option. Another option is maybe you don't want any recommended pivot table. You say that, no, I'm going to create my own pivot table. So for that, you can come here, click on the pivot table. You can see here different options are there. Just choose normal pivot table from table or range, or just hit on the icon. So it has selected there are two things here. One is the data source, which is this one,
correct
table 5, which means this entire thing.
okay
The
okay
second one is where do you want to create it? It can be in the same worksheet or in a different worksheet.
okay
So I'm now going to initially, I like to do it in the existing worksheet because I can see the data right next to it.
exactly yes
So if you want, you can do it on a separate sheet also. First couple of times, I would suggest doing it in the same worksheet, and then later you can do it on another worksheet once you become more confident.
right right
So the location can be existing worksheet. Click on a blank cell. If there are multiple tables on this cell, or there are tables below this, in case it does not find space, it will give you an error. Not
okay
enough space, or it will overwrite an existing table and things like that. Ensure you click on a blank section of the Excel.
okay
Then
understood
click OK.
okay okay
So here your pivot table will be created, And these are the pivot table fields that are there.
Fields. Right. So
Pivot
basically,
table,
the fields that are there in the table that are made pivot table fields, right?
correct,
The columns.
correct. And these are the four options that you have. One, you can have some columns in the rows. You can have some columns. You can have some data in the columns. You can have some data in the rows, some data in the columns. Values is what basis you want. That means what is the quantity or what is the amount or what is the count or function that you want basically.
Okay. Okay.
And then this is the filter. Filter is something that enables you to sort the data on the pivot table. Okay. So let's say first I want a customer wise total. Then I
Okay.
will click on customer name. It can be any column, but I have chosen customer name. So first thing when you choose a row or a column from the table, it will be put in the row table. Row.
Correct.
Okay, by default. You
By
can move
default.
it to column later on.
Okay.
Then this is the total amount. This is the total column. You see this? So that
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to click. Moment it is a number, system will put it in
Summary.
values.
Some. It will go to the
Yeah.
sum fields. Okay.
If you want, you can change the sum here. Sum can become count, average, max, mean, product. So default is sum, that is the first one. Rest of it, you have to come here and manually change it.
Okay.
Suppose you want the same column, but now you want the maximum or you
Okay.
want the count. Then I drag the same column again. So I got sum of total 2. Go to value field settings, change it to average, let's say is this, or max is say this, whichever one you want.
Okay.
Clear?
Okay.
So
Okay.
what did I do? On the pivot table list, I first clicked on customer name. So it came to rows. Then I clicked on the total and I got my values in the total, summarized value.
Okay. Max of total টা কি করে আনলেন আরেকবার if
Abar,
you can
আমি
show
কি
me.
করলাম, this total that is there, I clicked on it and dragged it. And
Sum of total. Sum
so
of
now
total
I
হলো।
have, so the same column I can include multiple times. So এই যে sum of total টা এলো, there is a scroll bar এইখানটা. If I scroll down, I will see sum of total 2. Click on this, value field settings, you will get this.
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা sum of total. Okay. So I select max, it will give me
Max, average, you can
count.
select any. Function is up to you. Now it is telling me how many invoices are there.
Correct. Correct.
ঠিক আছে? এবার এই যে Ameritrade, we have this 7,376, which is my total. I want to know what is the breakup of this total. I have the breakup here, right? Now, what do I have to do? I can come here, do a filter, and then look at the data. Yeah, how
Correct.
many invoices? What is the breakup of invoices? If it is a pivot table, all you need to do is double click on this
It will give me the detail.
data based on which that total has been arrived. Okay. In case
Okay.
you don't want it, or you can choose to work with it. In case you don't want it, delete.
Delete it.
You're back. Clear?
Clear, clear, clear. Yes, yes,
Next.
yes.
After this, you might want item wise, customer wise total. So what are the items that the customer has? So for that, I have item here. I'll click on item.
Okay.
So now it is showing me, look at it. This customer has bought these products, items. This customer has bought these products, items.
Items.
Now, this particular one, what did it do? Like I told you, it will always put a column in the row first,
Mm.
in this row. So if I want this like a proper table, I will have to drag this item and put it over here. So I'll get like a matrix.
Okay.
And you see here with the matrix, maybe I don't want these two columns. So I can just click on this and remove the field.
Remove field.
So now
Okay.
this one looks more like a table.
Correct. Sum of total and column labels. What did I give? What did you put in column? The item, right?
Item.
Okay.
It can be item type, it can be sales rep, it can be anything.
Mm. Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, after I create my pivot table, watch this space. There is nothing here.
Mm-hmm.
When I click on pivot table, I get the pivot table analyze and design tools.
Mm.
So if I click on pivot table analyze, I get different options.
Right. Right.
If I click on design, I get different design of the pivot table. So it is like the normal table coloring and all that. If I want
Mm-hmm.
any colors, nice looking colored tables,
Mm-hmm.
I can click this.
Okay. So when I click on pivot table analyze, it will again put me here only, right? In the pivot table fields, correct? What I want to
Yes.
analyze. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Now see here under pivot table analyze, you will see this option show field list,
Show field
show
list.
this
Yeah.
plus minus button and the field headers. If
Mm-hmm.
I click on this field list, this will disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Problem with this is if I don't have it ticked, if I click outside, there is no pivot table tools. I click on
Mm-hmm.
it, pivot table tool comes, but the field list does not come.
Mm-hmm.
If
Okay.
the field list does not come, then click on the field list, you will get a proper list
Understood. Understood.
back. So when you click outside, there is no field list. Click inside, you will get your pivot table.
Understood. Understood.
Clear?
Yes. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll click outside.
Mm-hmm.
Acha. This is too many items actually. It spreads out the sheet. Now, this pivot table that I have, sometimes what happens, we may need to do some kind of filtering on this.
Mm-hmm.
So for filter purpose, there is something called as a slicer.
Mm-hmm.
So here you see a pivot table analyzer, you can see slicer here.
Okay.
Click on slicer, whichever one, let's say I want it sales customer wise, item wise, or customer wise, sales representative wise. I say, okay, I get these two as my slicers, which I can keep on the side.
Mm.
Slicers are nothing but your filters.
Correct.
How does this work? Suppose I don't want Bobby, I'll click. That means, so I want Bobby. I'll click on Bobby. Only the Bobby related things will come. Bobby is not selected, so I'll not do that. I'll do, let's say, Ameritrade. So
Mm-hmm.
only Ameritrade data I can see.
Right. Right.
Suppose I want more than one customer, then I have to enable this multi-select. I click on
Yeah.
multi-select. I click on Fulton. That means Ameritrade and Fulton County Schools.
Okay.
Along with that, Mets Brewery,
Mm.
Omaha Steaks. And you can see the sales rep data is also coming in.
Okay. এটাকে কি করে আনছি আমি? I
বলে দিচ্ছি।
click on the
I
হ্যাঁ।
click on pivot table, I get
হুম।
pivot table analyze.
Analyze, হ্যাঁ।
এখানে মাঝখানে আছে insert slide.
Inserts, slicer, right, right.
Now see, I have chosen sales rep, but the sales rep data is not here.
Uh-huh.
So it's convenient if I include sales rep, then I can straight away see and verify also. So I'll include it.
Correct.
But it has included, like I said, it will put it in the row. Maybe I don't want it in row, I'll drag it and put it in the column.
Hmm.
Got it?
Understood. Yes.
If I want to see the all the data, I'll click on clear filter, I'll get everybody's data here.
Okay. Right. True.
Once again, what did we do? I clicked on this, I went to pivot table analyze, there is a
Slicer.
insert slicer. I click on insert slicer, I get a list of all the columns that are there in my pivot table.
Hmm.
I can choose any one of them as my slicer.
Hmm. Mhm.
Got it?
Correct.
Now, little bit on the slicer. Slicer also has its own tools here
Okay.
where you can change the color, where you can have some fonts like this.
Mhm.
Got it?
Right. Yes.
Now, sometimes what happens, you may not get so much of space on your sheet, right? It is
Mhm.
in longitude, it's in vertical format. You may not get, you might have some space at the top here.
Mhm.
So you can drag your slicer and you can also make it wide like this.
Okay.
Right now, this is single column. You can go
Mhm.
to slicer and this number of columns you can increase.
Okay.
So from
Okay.
one, make it two, make it three, make it four. Four looks decent, let's say. So
Mhm.
what I will do is, or maybe five, so that it comes in three lines.
Mhm.
And then I will drag it and keep it.
Okay.
Then I want something, I click on this, I click on this. Rest of
अच्छा.
them are selected. So
Mhm.
only these three will not.
Mhm. Okay, go to insert slicer. Let's say select customer name, right?
Yes.
আচ্ছা, customer গেলাম। এটা
And
একবার
just
দেখান তো, আপনি কাস্টমার নেমটা সিলেক্ট করলেন, তারপরে কি অটোমেটিক এটা চলে আসছে এই নামগুলো এখানে?
কোনটা?
এই যে ধরুন আপনি আমি ইনসার্ট স্লাইসারে গেলাম, ঠিক
Hmm,
আছে? ইনসার্ট স্লাইসারে আই এম সিলেক্টিং কাস্টমার নেম,
hmm.
রাইট? দেন হাউ ইজ ইট দিস স্ট্রাকচার কামিং অটোমেটিক্যালি?
This slicer structure.
হ্যাঁ, না সেলস রেপ আই আন্ডারস্টুড, কাস্টমার নেমটা হাউ ডিড ইট কাম? দ্যাটস হোয়াট আই এম
Oh yeah, একই রকম. Like I go to here, I click on the pivot table analyze, insert
ইনসার্ট
slicer. I
স্লাইসার।
have the customer name here. I'll click on this and say okay. It will include it here.
আচ্ছা, এটাকে এবার আপনি ওই হাউ হাউ ইউ হাউ
এখানে
আর ইউ
স্লাইসারে গেলাম, গিয়ে
হুম, হুম,
এখানে কলাম আছে, হাইট আছে, উইডথ আছে।
হুম, হুম। আচ্ছা।
এটা হচ্ছে অফ দ্য বাটনস। বাটন মানে এই আমেরিট্রেডটা একটা বাটন। Berkshire
ওকে।
Hathaway is one button.
One
CNA
button, okay.
Industries is another
Industries.
button.
Okay. Conagra Foods, Domino's Pizza. Okay.
I drag it and keep
Mhm.
it on the side, or maybe so that it does not obstruct my view of the pivot table.
Okay. Acha, so now that filter which is present there next to customer name, Ukhana I am doing the selection, right?
Exact, exact. I click on this, my data will get filtered.
This is interesting actually. Yeah. Okay.
And to remove it, click on the slicer, click on delete or cut.
Yeah. Cut.
Control X. You can
Explain.
have as many slicers as you want.
Mm. For each pivot table, right? For
For
every
each
pivot
pivot.
table.
Yes.
Oh, understood. Got it.
Then when you look at the pivot table itself, you click on it. There is an option from pivot table analyze itself. You can create charts,
Mhm.
which is
Okay.
called as a pivot chart.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So let's say you want something like this. So you say okay, and you will get a chart like this. Now, the great thing about this chart is this is often used in dashboards. You might have heard of dashboards and all that. What people
Absolutely.
usually do is, most commonly done thing is, they combine the pivot table and the chart together. So what is the advantage here? Suppose I don't want Ameritrade. I'll click on this. See, my chart also gets updated.
Mm.
Can you see here?
Yes, yes.
So I
Got it.
am left with Berkshire Hathaway, which is blue, CNA,
Mm-hmm.
Conagra, Domino's,
Domino's,
Fulton
West
County,
Corporation,
yeah,
University Star. Yeah, yeah.
Mets, River City, West Corporation.
Mm. Okay.
If I remove this filter, my chart will also get reset.
Mm-hmm.
So these two are linked. Often people what they do is they will copy this or they will cut this chart. I create a new sheet, put it here.
Okay.
I have another pivot table here. I'll copy this, copy or cut, either way. I can move it also. I bring it here and paste it. Then
Mm.
I click here. I want the slicer also.
Mm.
So I'll copy this. I can cut it also depending on
Mm-hmm.
the need. I'll let's say paste it over.
Mm. The other slicer also I can bring, right? That
Yes.
orange one.
You can click here and directly insert a new slicer also. You don't
Correct.
always have to go from there.
Hmm.
So
Anyway,
maybe
data तो हमारा same ही আছে तो
ha,
just a
exactly.
slicer I can
I
create,
want an
right?
item wise. So keep it here, no issues. And there's not enough space, you want it to be visible in these three lines. So you drag it, increase the number of columns.
Right. Mm.
Depends on what you have and how many items you have, how it is to be placed.
Understood.
So
Okay.
this becomes like your dashboard.
Mm. Yes, I have my chart. I have the pivot table. It's क्या बोले? Slicers are also there. Right. This
So
entire
if I
sheet
now
becomes a
click
dashboard basically.
Conagra, I'll get the
Mm.
data for Conagra.
Mm.
I have the sales rep, Kelly, and Conagra.
Right.
Berkshire Hathaway, I get the data for Sandra and Berkshire.
Mm.
Mets, I click on River City, Fulton County.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm. Okay.
clear?
Yes. এই চার্টটা চার্টটা ওই আপনার ওখানেই যেতে হবে রাইট
Exactly.
ইনসার্ট
No, yeah,
Insert.
not this normal,
No, the
not this insert.
normal.
When you're doing a pivot table, you
Pivot,
must go to pivot chart here.
table analysis, pivot chart, right? Pivot table analysis here, then pivot chart, yes. Okay.
Same options come. You get the
Hmm.
same number of charts. Everything is same, but you must go from the pivot chart. That is, it will
Understood.
build it on top of your pivot table.
Pivot table, understood. Right. Hmm.
Okay. Now
Yeah.
see, we had a date here. If you notice,
Hmm.
now when you do a date, slicer on a date is a bit difficult because your dates can be n number of dates, right? If you look at your
Okay.
invoices, every day probably every company generates hundreds of invoices. So if you try to do it by invoice, by a
Hmm.
filter or by a drop down, it will become a long list.
Correct. Correct.
So instead of that, what we can do is we can create what we call as a timeline. What does
Hmm.
timeline do? It is like a slicer, but it is for dates.
Hmm.
Only dates will come. So I'll click on date and I say okay. And my slicer gets created. What is the purpose of slicer? Is to create a filter for my dates.
Okay.
See, I can scroll here. Every year's data is here.
Hmm.
If I don't want 2014, I can drag it and reduce my period.
Okay.
I drag it, reduce. So my filter is only between this period.
Okay. Date. Okay.
Quarter 1, quarter 2, 2015. Simple. See, there is no output. That means there is no data between that period. Let's enlarge it. See, now the data has come. That means what? Most of my data is around this period.
Mm-hmm.
I can directly click on this also, month wise.
Mm-hmm.
I can get a data month wise.
Mm-hmm.
Got it? See, in 2015, there is no data.
Right. Understood. এটা একবার দেখান তো স্যার কিভাবে আপনি বানাচ্ছেন এটা এই
কোনটা?
এটা এই এই যে আপনি টাইম লাইনের এই যে ব্যাপারটা করলেন ইনসার্ট টাইম লাইন করে তাই তো
Hmm,
উইদিন
একদম.
উইদিন
There must be a date in your data, okay?
ডেট থাকলে তবেই মাই টাইম লাইন উইল বি ক্রিয়েটেড রাইট অ্যাজ
Yes.
আ পার্ট অফ দ্যাট পিভট টেবল ওকে
So I click on my pivot table, insert,
so timeline below slicer
correct.
right insert timeline X click on date I mean select date right mm-hmm. চলে এলো okay and this is basically ডেটাকে রিপ্রেজেন্টই করছে মানে I am not doing any
Filter করে,
calculation
filter করে. It is like this. You can drag and include other date regions.
Whatever data is present within that date range, it
Yes.
will
Suppose
automatically
you are doing
get notified.
analysis of your data for the last 5 years.
Mm,
Now you don't may not want to see all the 5 years at once. You might want to see month wise or year wise. Then you can use
mhm.
this kind of filtering.
Correct, correct, absolutely. Mm, mhm.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
This is one option uh, of creating these filters. So what we have seen slicers that are date, and we have seen slicers which are normal text,
Mm,
right? So when I click on this, I will be back to my pivot table and I can enable my field list. So I will get all these options.
okay.
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 Now, when you are doing this kind of data analysis, the
Mm-hmm.
important thing to keep in mind is what columns you are working with. And often what happens, you might need additional analysis of that data.
Correct. Correct.
For example, you have, let's say, columns like this, row and column. For each of these, you have different rows, the data, which is like column and row wise. Now, on top of it, this is just giving you the sales figure. On top of it, you might need something like an percentage.
Mm,
What is the percentage of data here? Like, okay, Ameritrade has done this much business, but what is the percentage of Ameritrade? You
mm-hmm.
do you do such analysis, right? You also do based on percentage.
Correct, correct, correct. Yes.
So for that, you don't always have to do calculations. Pivot table gives you additional ways to do it. How? I have this total column. I'll drag it and put it in my values again. By
Mm-hmm.
the way, instead of dragging, I can also do it this way. I can go to total, click on this small arrowhead here, click this. You can say add to values, right click, you can say add to values. Values is where this one. So once you say add to values, this will get added here.
Okay.
Now, the second total is a repeat of same thing. I don't want repetition. So what I will
I'll
do, I
remove
will
it.
go to sum of total here, go to value field settings. On the right hand side, there is show value as. We have already seen summarize values. I go to
Mm-hmm.
show value as. By default, it is no calculation. I click on the drop down, I get different options here: percentage of grand total, percentage of column total, percent of row total, percentage. I scroll down, there are
Mm-hmm.
many options here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I want it as percent of parent column total.
Mm-hmm.
So what it will do is it will give me the percentage. So Bobby's business is 13.78% of the total.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Similarly, Dark's total is 9.67%. Now, if this is 100%, that means there is nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
See, all the row is blank here
Mm-hmm.
except the total. That means which is 100% in this particular customer. There is no other sales rep involved. When I look at this Domino's Pizza, this is 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Doug is the only salesperson. Got it?
Understood.
We can try something else where some value field settings go back here. Maybe you don't like this. Change instead of percent total, you say percent of column total
Mm-hmm.
and say okay. So it will do a calculation based on my column. 18%, this is my column total, $28,577. So
Mm-hmm.
out of this, I have 5,000 and 23,000. So that is 5,000 is 18.15%. 23,391 is 81.85%.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, look at this. Domino's Pizza is 34.39%. Union Pacific is 65.61%.
Okay. Okay.
So all these calculations system is doing for you.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yes, yes, right. পার্সেন্টেজটাকে ওটা আমি সিলেক্ট করছি কি পার্সেন্টেজটা?
Now, what I do is a column total is there. I drag it and include it here first.
হুম।
Then I click on this, go to value field settings, and then they will click.
স্যার আচ্ছা
And there
এখানে
you
আপনি
have the drop down,
ওকে পার্সেন্টেজ অফ কলাম টোটাল রাইট
grand total, row total.
গ্র্যান্ড টোটাল
There is another very interesting one which is called difference. What does difference do? Let me show you. I'll first remove the salesperson because here what happened, each customer has only one salesperson. Now I want to do a comparison between the customer wise, what is the sales. So the sum of column total, see, look at this, how much it is coming as, lot of data. Let's say I want to add this another comparison here. I'll drag it, put it over here. So I get sum of total 3. I click on this, go to value field settings, show value as. Instead of no calculation, I will choose difference from. Difference from what? I can either have a standard customer compared to my this customer, I want others calculation, or I can go to the top. There is a previous option or next option. Previous option, what it will do, it will compare with the previous value. 14,531 minus 73576. So this minus this one compared to Berkshire and CNA, 12,362 minus 14,531. Do you see this?
ইয়েস ইয়েস অফকোর্স।
So it is always comparing with the previous figure. This minus this.
ওকে।
And if I drag it, it follows the same rule.
রাইট।
Oh, sorry.
রাইট।
That's hard coded. This one is this minus this. Okay. If you want to look at the, where is it coming from? Okay. Understood?
Right, 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 right.
Now,
আচ্ছা, মাইনাস ভ্যালুটা করতে গেলে ওটা অটোমেটিক নিয়ে নিচ্ছে তো
না
নাকি
এই
আপনার?
যে 12,000 মাইনাস 14,000,
করলাম।
মানে এটার একটা ড্রপ আছে, সেই জন্য মাইনাস।
ওকে, ওকে, ওকে। স্যার এটা আরেকবার একটু দেখিয়ে দেবেন ডিফারেন্সটা কি করে আমি আনছি?
ডিফারেন্সটা কি করে আনছি? ওকে,
হুম,
I go to
হুম,
sum of total here.
হুম।
I go to value.
ভ্যালু ফিল্ড সেটিংস, হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ।
Here I can
শো
see
ভ্যালুজ
show
as,
value as.
হুম।
So this is customer name wise previous items.
আচ্ছা, I will select previous, right?
Previous করলে it will compare with the previous. If I do next, it will compare with the next one.
আচ্ছা,
মানে
আচ্ছা, আচ্ছা, ওকে।
Ameritrade minus Berkshire, Berkshire minus CNA, CNA minus Conagra, Conagra minus Domino's, Domino's minus Full
এটা
Service.
নেক্সট হচ্ছে তো, ইট ইজ ফর
Correct,
নেক্সট, রাইট?
correct.
আচ্ছা।
See this?
এবার যদি আমি ধরুন প্রিভিয়াস করি তাহলে বার্কশায়ার থেকে তো অ্যামিটেড একটাই রো পেলো,
Correct.
আর তো
হ্যাঁ, Ameritrade, there is nothing to compare with the pre, so it comes as blank.
কারেক্ট, 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 বুঝেছি। তো বেসিক্যালি দুটো ভ্যালুই এলো আমার,
Hmm.
অ্যামিটেড এলো আর বার্কশায়ার এলো, ব্যাস। বিকজ তার উপরে তো আর প্রিভিয়াস কিছু নেই অ্যাকচুয়ালি।
Exactly. Clear?
নেক্সট শুড বি দ্য আইডিয়াল অপশন, বুঝেছি। জাস্ট এই মানে অপশনস গুলো আমার জানা উচিত কোনটা সিলেক্ট করবো, তাহলে
Absolutely.
অটোমেটিক ডেটা
Absolutely.
দিয়ে দেবে, আমাকে তো আর কিছু করতে
Exactly.
হচ্ছে না বেসিক্যালি।
Yeah, exactly. That is important. Pivot table is doing this for you. I have seen people doing a sum, then outside the table they do a difference. No need.
নো নিড।
Pivot table will do it for you. Okay.
Sure, yeah.
All right. Now let us see another way in which you can present the data. Here, as you can see, when I am doing customer wise, if I include sales rep, this table becomes very big or it gets a bit messed up, isn't it?
Correct.
So you might see it is going, it becomes very wide, or it doesn't happen that way. Now, there is something called as a filter. What does a filter do? Suppose you're doing an analysis of salesperson, you might want to see it customer wise or sales representative wise. So I'll drag sales rep in the filter. So where is my sales rep here now? Sales rep has gone to the filter here, right above the pivot table.
Okay.
What is the advantage of this? If I click on this, I get a drop down of all the sales representative. I want to see Bobby wise. I click on Bobby and I'll see Bobby's data.
Okay.
Similarly, I want more than one sales rep. I want Bobby and Kelly, let's say.
Correct, correct.
Maybe I don't want all. I don't want multiple. I just want Kelly. I say Kelly, okay, and show Kelly's data.
Okay.
Got it?
Mm-hmm.
So what did I do? I went to this pivot table, whichever one I want in my filter,
Mm-hmm.
customer, sales rep, item type, invoice number, whatever I want. I can drag it and put it under filter.
Okay. Okay.
Suppose I want items, I'll drag it and put it here. So I can do both. I can do multiple filters also.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe I want to see over here. Uh, 19-inch. So there is no sale of 19-inch monitor by Kelly. But 24-inch, she has sold. Okay.
ওকে, ওকে। না, এখানে তো আমি কিছু চেঞ্জ করছি না, রাইট? আমি জাস্ট আইটেম চেঞ্জ কিছু করছি কি আমি?
No changes. Our original data is as it is.
আচ্ছা, আমি জাস্ট আইটেমটাকে, সেলস রেপটাকেও তো ফিল্টার্সে দিলাম, রাইট? সেলস রেপ আর আইটেম দুটোকেই দিয়েছি।
If I want
কাস্টমার,
to remove the filter, I'll say all and I will get back my original data.
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, হ্যাঁ এইটা তো আমি করছি। হ্যাঁ, ওই ধরুন রেভিনিউ এর অ্যানালিসিস গুলো করতে হচ্ছে আমার, ইনফ্যাক্ট হবে ফার্স্ট উইক অফ জুলাই, জুনের কস্ট ফাইল আসলে। সো ওয়ান থিং ইজ লাইক উইচ অল ফিল্ড শুড আই সিলেক্ট ইন অর্ডার টু আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড কি আমার এইভাবে ডেটাটা দেবো, এই আইডিয়াটা একটু তৈরি হওয়া দরকার আছে, ঠিক আছে?
There is no solution.
ফর্মুলা,
Yes,
মানে আমাকে
no
করতে করতে
formula.
আই উইল লার্ন।
It all depends on how you want to represent your data. What is your vision of the data? How does your customer manager or your practice wants to see the data? But typically, when you do a data representation, you must analyze. Okay, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to show it customer wise? Am I trying to show sales representative wise? Am I trying to show resource wise? What is your objective? Just think about it. And what happens, most of these things we get from trial and error. If you are starting from scratch, if somebody has already given you something, then probably it is easier. At least the format is there. You know what is the format. Okay.
Okay.
This way, your recommended pivot table can help you. We had this recommended, remember?
Yes, yes.
So that way you can look at those what Excel is recommending. That could be your starting point and then keep improving upon that. Got it? All right. Next, see this. The best thing about filters. I click on the report filter here. This is sales representative wise. You said you already do this kind of filtering, right?
কোনটা বললেন আপনি? Which one?
এই ফিল্টারটা you already do it, report filter.
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, এটা ওই ধরুন কস্ট ফাইল আসলো, so what I have to analyze is that basically for our unit, our area, what has been the cost file.
Good.
The report that is coming, whether that is right or not,
Tell
that
me,
you have to analyze.
suppose within your area you have different practices or different groups, different teams. I want to see, you have a filter here. I want to see in each sheet, I want to see Bobby's data. In a different sheet, I want to see Doug's data, Kelly's data, Molly's data separated in different sheet. How will I do it?
Separate sheet. Okay. তো ধরুন আমি, if I select each person and double click on that, automatically a new sheet will be created, right?
Here. And double
ধরুন,
click.
না না, এটাকে ধরুন আমি সিলেক্ট করলাম,
Okay, করলাম। তারপর আমি তো এখানে double click I can do only on one item, right? But I have more than one here.
Okay. প্রত্যেকের জন্য I want to see the data, correct?
but I don't want to see the original data. I just want to see the pivot table data.
Filtered data. Filtered data.
One option that you have is you copy this,
Uh,
create a new sheet, paste it.
uh,
But
of course.
problem with that is if you have 100 such sales rep, you have to do it 100
Well,
times,
time taking, of
which
course.
is time taking and a lousy way of doing it.
Obviously.
So another option, best of thing that pivot table gives you, Excel gives you is click on the sales rep, go to pivot table, go to pivot table analyze. Okay, go to pivot table analyze. There is options here. Can you see options?
Hmm.
Under options, you have show report filter pages.
Okay.
Show report filter pages. How did I go? Once again, I clicked on the filter, went to pivot table analyze here. Sometimes it's also called only analyze, okay, depending on the version of Excel.
Of Excel, huh?
Go to pivot table options
Show
and
report
then
filter
click on
page.
show report filter pages. So it will
Okay.
ask you for which one do you want? Do you want it for sales rep or for item? Say I want it
Hmm.
for sales rep, I will say okay.
Hmm.
So what it has done, it is showing you Bobby's data, it is
Hmm.
showing you Doug's data,
ও
it is showing
প্রত্যেকের
you
জন্য
Kelly's
separate
data.
sheet is getting created.
Yes. So if you have 100 such sales rep, you will get 100 such sheets.
Hmm.
The bad thing about this is there is no control Z. So if you have
Hmm.
to delete them, you have to manually delete.
Deleted.
Or you
আচ্ছা,
have to save it before doing this. If you don't want it, close it without saving and reopen the save.
that sheet basically the pivot table sheet.
Yes.
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, so মানে বেসিক্যালি আমি সেলস রেপে ধরুন প্রত্যেকটা নেম আই এম সিলেক্টিং and then going to pivot table analyze show option, that one, right?
Yes. Show report filter pages.
এটা তো নয়। What is the, where is the main sheet? Yes.
This is my pivot table. I click on the pivot table. I go to
And
pivot table analyze. Click on the
optional
options.
options,
Show report
show
filter.
report filter page.
Click on this. Choose any one that you want.
Sales rep করলাম ধরুন।
So this one is item wise.
But I wanted sales rep
Sales
page,
rep
right?
is already done. So I chose
Done.
item type.
হ্যাঁ 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 হ্যাঁ, correct. আগেরবার তো আপনি সেলস রেপ দিলেন, সেখানেই তো ফর ববি স্যান্ড্রা সবার
So
দিয়েছে।
now I
এবার
get both. I get item wise as well as
হুম,
sales representative.
এবার যতগুলো আইটেম আছে তার জন্য প্রত্যেকটা শিট ক্রিয়েট হবে।
Oh,
আন্ডারস্টুড আন্ডারস্টুড।
clear?
হুম, রাইট রাইট রাইট।
Now, after this, let's do something relating to dates, okay, or what we call as grouping. Normally, when you do a date, you have, like I said, invoices on different dates. So here you can see I have things like remove this. I have date-wise breakup.
Date is in rows, okay.
Date is in row. So I get for 13 January, 28th of June, 21st of July, 4th of August, and so on. right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, problem with this one is if you want to do an analysis based on year or a quarter or a month, like you said, your quarterly end is coming. So you need to analyze all this data now.
Correct.
So what you can do here is you can right click on this and you can do a grouping and include quarter and years also here.
Okay.
What's the advantage of this? Moment you do this, pivot table will break up your data quarter wise, month wise,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and year wise, of course. So suppose I want something like this. Let's say I do a collapse. Okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Ameritrade 2014, which months have they done the data? Which quarter? There is data in quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. You see this?
Mm-hmm.
For every customer, it has done that analysis for you,
Mm-hmm.
grouping.
Correct.
So if I again expand this for another customer, I get 2014, 2014, let's say quarter three. You can see the data for quarter three.
Right.
And all that percentage differences, all that is still there.
Mm.
Whatever columns you have chosen on the pivot table.
Correct.
Got it?
Understood. Yes. মানে এই টেকনিকটা হাউ উইল দিস হেল্প মি, মানে আমি জাস্ট একটু যদি রিক্যাপ করি, হাউ দিস উইল হেল্প মি।
A groupটা?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, গ্রুপিং যেটা করছি।
See, you're doing your data quarter wise.
হুম
1 year of data, you want to compare, you have last year's data, let's say, or
হুম
you're doing your analysis of this year.
হুম হুম
Okay. Every month, normally what happens in the you get your data from the database, right?
হুম হুম
So
হুম
that database has data for all the years data,
হুম হুম
but they don't keep it as year and month. They keep it as date.
হুম,
From that date, you're deriving the month and the quarter
correct.
and the year. So it helps you to split up the data.
Right, right, yes.
Got it?
হুম
So
হুম
it all depends on what you need actually.
হুম
So you can do this manually also. You will say, sir, why should I use this? I'll do it manually. But this one is much faster than doing it manually.
মানে বেসিক্যালি আমার ডেটটাকে আপনার রোজে দিলাম, আর
Hmm.
দিয়ে রাইট ক্লিক করে গ্রুপিং, তাই তো, তাই করছি তো।
Exactly. So if I retrace my steps, let's say I
হুম
remove this,
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, রিমুভ করুন, করলাম, সবই সব সরিয়ে দিলাম, ঠিক আছে,
there's no date here.
গুড, ইয়েস।
First thing that I do is I include the date.
হুম
Then I come here. If these are already selected, I can remove them.
হুম
So only my date remains.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Only the date remains here.
Correct.
Then I can right click on the date, group.
These months, quarters, yes. Right. Right. Start date and date automatic নিয়ে নিচ্ছে তো
Ekdom,
based on
ekdom.
my date
First and
range.
the last.
ঠিক আছে.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me show you another example of how we can use this grouping.
Mm.
I go to the new one. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say I have A1, A2 as my employee name. Okay, so I have 1200 such employees, let's say. I have their age, date of birth, let's say from 1st of Jan 1965.
Mm.
Okay, then
Mm-hmm.
I click on this. I'm just putting some dates here. Okay, and uh, I go to fill series. Since it is date, I increase it by 27 days, let's say. So I
Mm-hmm.
get some dates, right? So based on
Correct.
this, I can derive their age also.
Yes.
Dated if from date,
ডেটেডই
comma
বলেছিলেন আপনি.
today,
রাইট.
comma y.
ওয়াই মানে ইয়ার ফর ইয়ারটা
Yeah,
দেবে তাই তো?
correct.
হুম.
So I now get everybody's year also here.
হুম.
And here actually this has become negative. So that's why
নাম আসছে কেন ওটাই ভাবছি.
না নাম রে কারণ এটা তো 59 এটা রিডিউস করেছি তো so the last date has come as you see here 2054
আহ, হুম. সেই কারণেই নিচ্ছে না.
হ্যাঁ
Correct.
2050 fill series let me reduce it further okay so maybe 20 so now I'll get I think better so there is no num error now okay.
হুম.
So what I'm going to do is I have age, I have got age, and this one I'll just copy this, paste as values so that I don't have any formulas or anything, and I can delete this. Now, if I create a pivot table around this, I will get insert pivot table. I can say existing worksheet.
হুম.
So I'll put it over here.
হুম.
I need it age wise and I want employee name, okay, in my values. Why? That will give me a count. And 19 years, how many people are here? At 20
10
years, how many people are here? At 21 years, how many people are here? And so on. Got it?
correct.
Based on this, I can do a grouping here. What will my group do? It will start at, let's say, 19, go up to 59, increment by 10. I say, okay, it will give me a summarization like this. This I can do for invoices, outstanding invoices. How many invoices are outstanding for more than 30 days, more than 60 days, more than 90 days? I can do age of the customer, age of invoices, sales figures, how many items, number of resources in this range, location wise, and all these things I can do. Understood?
Understood, yes.
So what did we do here? I had a date. I did not change that date at all. I put another column here where I derived the age of that person.
Right.
Then I went to pivot table, inserted this entire data as my pivot table. From here, I derived employee name, date of birth, age. Values is count of employee name, rows is age.
কিন্তু এই রেঞ্জটা কি করে আসছে? নিজে নিজে
Range
নিয়ে
is
নিচ্ছে না?
jonne, what did I do? I right clicked on it.
আচ্ছা, সাবটোটাল।
This is called as grouping actually. If I right click and I group it, I will get starting age. I can give 15 also if I want, 15 to 60, just to make it round. And I say okay. So it will give me 15 to 24, 25 to 34 in multiples of 10.
Right.
Actually, it should be till 70 because it's crossing 60.
Correct.
Now each of them, now if I want a breakup of this, you can always double click and get who are the people in this age group. Lot of times companies do an analysis as to which group of people are in which age group. Got it? Clear?
হ্যাঁ, ক্লিয়ার ক্লিয়ার। পিভটটা আমি নিজে একটু দেখেছিলাম, বাট হ্যাঁ, আই মিন আজকে আপনি অনেক কিছু বললেন। সো I mean, the multiple, I mean, various aspects of using pivot table, basically. Yes. Yes. Understood.
All things are okay. I haven't delved too much on charts because chart we did it separately and you are conversant with charts. So that way I didn't repeat anything about pivot table charts. I just showed you how you can derive it. So from here you can just click on this like we did. You can go to pivot table analyze, derive your
Insert chart.
chart. So you can get a chart, nice looking chart also, age group wise. These are often useful for HR.
Yeah, actually, this will be helpful for HR only.
But you can turn it around. You can use it for invoices, aging of invoices, or number of resources. You want to see customer wise how many resources are at each location.
Actually, আমার একটা জিনিস দেখাবার ছিল আপনাকে। এই মেইনলি আমাকে পিভট টেবিলটা লাগবে হচ্ছে আপনার রেভিনিউ
One
কস্ট
minute,
ফাইল।
let me pause.